Hello everyone, thank you for letting me speak to your class today. My name is Kristen Vandegriend, and I'm a doctoral student in the Department of Health Promotion, Education, and Behavior at the University of South Carolina. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about centering pregnancy from the healthcare provider's perspective. Then we'll talk about the scaling up of group prenatal care throughout the state of South Carolina and what that looks like at different healthcare sites. Centering Pregnancy is a model of group prenatal care that was designed and is overseen by the Centering Healthcare Institute, or CHI. Through this model, groups of 8 to 12 women meet 10 times throughout their pregnancy with their healthcare provider. If you visit the Centering Healthcare Institute website, you will find links to studies that show positive birth outcomes for babies and for mothers who choose centering pregnancy as their model of prenatal care. Centering Pregnancy is an evidence-based redesign of healthcare delivery that helps to promote safe, efficient, effective, timely, culturally appropriate, patient-centered, and equitable care. Before a typical session, the clinic staff has enrolled women into the program and scheduled them for all 10 of their sessions. Women like this because they know when their visits will be up until their birth of their baby. The 2 staff facilitators of the group have prepared what they will discuss that day using a facilitator's guide that was provided by CHI. One of the facilitators is always a licensed healthcare professional, for example, a nurse midwife, nurse practitioner, or physician. One of the goals of centering is that group starts and ends on time. Many sites allow women to check in at the front desk and bypass the waiting room altogether. Often women say they like not having to wait in the waiting room for their appointments. The group meets for 1.5 to 2 hours. First, women check and record their own health, including their blood pressure and their weight. The facilitator then checks the mother's belly to see how far along she is and if the baby is growing. The facilitator also checks fetal heart tones. The facilitator answers any private questions the mother may have and offers to bring some of their discussion to the group in case any of the other women have the same questions. This exam happens in a private corner on a mat or table within the same room as the group. One of the key components of centering is that groups are conducted in a facilitative way rather than in a didactic or lecture format. Educational topics that are covered each week are listed in the mom's notebook and are spaced throughout the 10 sessions in order to be relevant based on the number of weeks in pregnancy the women fall. Mothers love their notebooks because they can add personal information about their pregnancy and learn about each of the topics that they discussed in group in detail. Having support people in the group is optional for the group to decide. So I mentioned that South Carolina is scaling up centering throughout the state. But what is program scale-up? In order to scale up a program, efforts are used to increase the impact of innovations that are successfully tested in pilot or experimental projects in order to benefit more people, to foster policy and program development on a lasting basis. In a nutshell, scaling up a healthcare program involves startup, expansion, and institutionalization or sustainability. There's a great need for scaling up effective interventions in order to reach beyond current pockets of success. Without scaling up tested interventions, we risk missed opportunities to effectively use the time, energy, and funding spent that could have impacted many people. Scale-up efforts should be actively and dynamically pursued. Otherwise, we have successful interventions, but they're small pockets and they don't reach the greater population. The first 5 centering pregnancy sites in the Scale-Up project were in Anderson, Columbia, Sumter, Murrells Inlet, and Charleston. 2 new sites were chosen in 2014 in Greenwood and in Clinton. There are many stakeholders involved in the process of scaling up evidence-based health programs. As you can see by the list, these key actors can greatly influence the success of a new model of healthcare within an existing healthcare framework. We interviewed some of the stakeholders involved in this process. The first quotation is from a family practice healthcare provider who believes that women are more engaged in their healthcare. The women like the group model of care and are more aware of their own health than the facilitator's patients are aware who receive traditional prenatal care. The second facilitator expressed her gratitude that her site was one of the sites chosen. A third facilitator describes how much fun she and the patients have during group, but how much time and energy she needs to invest in making the program successful. Other facilitators at this site and other sites have expressed the same concerns. Implementing and running prenatal care groups takes more work than traditional care. There are additional scheduling concerns in order to get 8 to 10 women scheduled for regular sessions 10 times, as well as the scheduling concerns that managers have when regularly blocking off 2 to 3 hours of healthcare provider time to set up and facilitate a group. Remember, this group prenatal care model is being implemented within traditional existing healthcare models. Centering pregnancy costs more for clinics than traditional care because they provide mothers with notebooks, bags, and snacks. These costs can be recouped through an enhanced reimbursement program through Medicaid, but this is an additional consideration for the billing department. Electronic medical records are also a concern because putting the information in takes time for healthcare providers when they see 10 to 12 women for each session and are not able to update the records as they see each patient on the mat, so they end up doing it before group, or after hours. Because group prenatal care is different from the traditional model of prenatal care, marketing and recruitment is constantly necessary. Some sites have dedicated space that is used for nothing other than for centering. Staff at these sites can leave up their exam table and chairs, while at other sites, often in hospital settings, there is no permanent space for their centering supplies. Staff at these sites must take extra time out of their day to move furniture and set up chairs, exam space, and the snack table for each session. As you can see in this location, this is a permanent space for centering to meet. The facilitators leave the chairs up and created a renovated space for a snack area. Besides planning for space, each site in the scale-up effort has implemented centering in ways that work best for them, while maintaining fidelity to the essential elements of the model. For example, there are different types of facilitators at each site. Some sites utilize their nurse midwives with nurses. Some sites have nurse practitioners with nurses, and other sites have physicians or medical residents who facilitate groups. All facilitators go through basic and eventually advanced facilitation training that is provided by CHI. The Greenville Health System in South Carolina was instrumental in scaling up centering pregnancy throughout the state. Given the impact of centering on birth outcomes at Greenville Health System, through funding from March of Dimes, the South Carolina Department of Health and Human Services invested in the expansion of centering to sites throughout the state as a key strategy for improving birth outcomes and reducing racial disparities in birth outcomes. The Department of Health and Human Services is funding this expansion. Additionally, the South Carolina Birth Outcomes Initiative, also known as BOI, is an initiative of the South Carolina DHHS and has adopted centering as a core strategy to improve birth outcomes. Here are a few of the many resources for information on scaling up evidence-based healthcare programs, as well as a link to CHI and to the South Carolina Birth Outcomes Initiative. Thank you again so much for your time. I hope that you have learned a little bit about centering pregnancy and what it's like to implement centering pregnancy in existing healthcare frameworks. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me.